Hello everyone. Hope you are all fine and doing well. Today we are going to review a book called What I Talk About When I Talk About Running by Haruki Murakami. Although it's a book about running, but it's a memoir by one of the greatest living author alive today. Haruki Murakami is a Japanese writer. His novels, essays and short stories have been bestseller in Japan as well as internationally, with his work translated into 50 languages and have sold millions of copies. He has received numerous awards for his work, including the Gonzo Prize for New Writers, the World Fantasy Award, the Frank O'Connor International Short Story Award, and he was a very strong contender for the 2011 Nobel Prize for Literature. His books are legendary and he has a cult following amongst the youth and amongst people of all ages. Some of his books you must have already read, like Kafka on the Shore, Norwegian Wood, 1Q84 and many more. He has written very few non-fiction books, and one of them is What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. This is a very important book. This book is not a straight-jacket formula like step 1 do this, step 2 do that, step 3 do this. But this is a book that contains deep knowledge and immense wisdom from the author who has lived life fully and who has experienced writing and living through the great sports of marathon running and triathlon. Normally when you read Murakami fiction, you get insights into the life and philosophies. And this is a non-fiction. So you can imagine the kind of insights, philosophies and meanings of existence you will get from reading this book of Murakami. So let's jump deep into it. I'm going to summarize each chapter. So let's run into it. The book starts with a foreword titled Suffering is Optional. The author starts by mentioning that this is a book about running and it is not a treatise on how to get healthy. The author further says that he is not giving any advice like, okay everybody, let's run every day to stay healthy. But this is a book in which he has gathered his thoughts about what running has meant to him as a person. As I mentioned in the introduction that this is not a ready-made formula. This book has kept its door open for all kinds of interpretation and understanding. Therefore, everyone can take their own meaning out of it. This is the beauty of this book. Further, in this foreword, Murakami quotes Somerset Maugham, another great English writer, who once wrote that in each shave lies a philosophy. Everything that we do, no matter how mundane some action might appear, but if we do it with consciousness, with awareness, and with regularity for a long period of time, it becomes contemplative and a meditative act. We need to explore this for ourselves. This reminds me of a Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, and he talks about this mindful breathing and mindful walking. Just walking from one place to another. Each mindful step that we take, each mindful breath that we take reminds us that we are alive on this beautiful planet. And it's a profound and pleasurable way to deepen our connection between our body and the earth. Although it's just an act of walking, but it can become meditative provided we do it with consciousness, with understanding and with awareness. It's something very nice to explore for our own self. Next in this foreword, he says that he has written this book Because unless he puts his thought down on papers, he would not know what running means to him. Next, he talks about the significance of mantras in life of runners. Mantras can be anything which gives us motivation. Mantras are something which inspires us, which helps us to survive in tough times and which helps us to move forward in life. It can be any line, any sentence or any verse that gives us a sense of courage, inspiration and strength. To each his own mantra, and he gives us an example of one of the mantra which one of the runner was using, and here it is. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. This reminds me of a book by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, a 1946 book which detailed his experiences and perspective of living through ordeal as a prisoner in Nazi concentration camp during World War II. Viktor Frankl believed that the spiritual self couldn't be affected by external forces, and even in the midst of dehumanizing and atrocious conditions, life still had meaning, and that suffering had a purpose. According to Frankl, suffering will be there, but how we respond to that suffering matters a lot. How we cope up with it, how we find meaning in it and move forward with renewed purpose. And here, Haruki Murakami is also saying similar thing, that pain is inevitable but suffering is optional. So here he completes his foreword by saying that he has written this book by keeping his body into motion, and this is a memoir centered on the act of running. This book has his life lessons and experiences. So according to me, there are 3 takeaway messages from this foreword. You may get even more. I highly recommend you to read this book. Number 1. Any act, if done with consciousness, awareness and regularity over a long period of time, can become a very profound and meditative act. Number 2. He talks about the significance of mantras in life. To each his own mantra. Mantras are something that motivates us and helps us to deal with difficult situations. Number 3, he says pain is inevitable but suffering is optional. So here we complete the introduction and the foreword of this book. We will see the first chapter in the next video. So see you again. Thank you.